So hello to everyone. Welcome. This is something that Helena and I monitor her as or I don't even know what, supervise Helena as a GAA student for MET. And we have monthly meetings. And this is something that she says, is there any way you could do a PhD course or kind of workshop? And it's something that I did a lot of actually when I was at York University. And so this is where this came from. And if it's of interest, we can continue this sort of progress as we go through if people are interested. So for those that don't know me, my name is Dr. Keri Ewart. I am a faculty member with MET, the coordinator for equity, diversity, inclusion, decolonization, and anti-racism. And a very proud instructor of many of you that have been in my class over the past. This is my third year at UBC. Prior to this, I was the executive director for curriculum development at York University for 2-3 years. And then prior to that, I taught at Brock University, a full faculty member for their teacher candidacy program, and taught there for 8 years, everything from mathematics and literacy, technology. I was a faculty advisor. I was an academic advisor. And prior to that, I was with the Peel Board of Education for 17 years and taught everything from K to 12. And then I was also a resource teacher and coordinator at the board for modern learning, and just kind of came from that and then worked my way up. And I do have PhDs. And have been on acceptance committees for many PhD and master level acceptance committees. So before we start, I just want to do a territorial acknowledgement. I am actually in Toronto. I do live in Ontario and I teach at UBC. It's a little bit of a commute, but I'm back and forth usually once a month, once every 6 weeks for faculty meetings, presentations, doing a lot of grant writing right now and working through projects. So here in Ontario, I am very, very proud and honored to live on the unceded and traditional territories of the Takaranto, the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabeg communities, and the Huron-Wendat people. And it is here that I feel so privileged to be able to learn and do a lot of unlearning, especially in my role with equity, diversity, and inclusion. I am consistently decolonizing my practice and looking for ways, even in this session, with a very institutionalized colonialist perspective of designing and being part of the PhD program, looking for ways to decolonize that. And when I am on campus, I am very honored again to work as well as socialize and be part of the community on the unceded and traditional territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. So I ask if you would like to share your own territorial acknowledgement, please feel free to do so in the chat area. And there's some resources here. What I am going to do is I am going to post this particular slide deck here. It's something that anybody who knows me, who's ever had me as one of their professors before, I love to share. And this I'm only doing this for you and anybody who knows that I am in, or that's in my classes right now. I'm teaching 6 classes, a little bit of an overload, a lot of an overload. So this was kind of taken on just as like, Keri, would you do this? And of course, I always want to give back to my students because you are all my #1 priority. And so this is why we're doing this. Okay. So a little bit fuzzy, but I actually found graduate application humor. You know, who knew that it ever existed? But it says, all right, we need to choose which grad schools to apply to. And the person says, right. Now, some of them are better than others. So we don't want to waste time applying to any old school. Nope. We should set a standard for ourselves. Yep. And then it goes, okay, which schools are most likely to let someone like us in? So we won't settle for any less. What we're going to do today is I always get questions from my students. First of all, if they're willing to meet, after or as they're continuing through their journey at Met, to find out which schools have online or blended learning programs. And so today I am going to share some schools in Canada, some ones that I have very, very close friends on acceptance committees of PhDs, doing the PhDs, but then also who lead the program and run those programs that are fantastic. So over the next, 40 minutes or so with time for questions, we are going to be talking about the graduate program, specifically a PhD, or an Ed.D, which is an education. Skills required, what you need prior, looking at the preparation piece, how to choose a school, parts of the application. I'm not going to be spending a huge length of time on the application parts. That could be for another session if this is just to see if you are interested in a PhD. But then moving forward, if it's something that there's enough interest, then what I could do is I could host sample writing sessions where we can have maybe a 3-part series over the course of a 2 or 3 month period where you learn how to really perfect your CV, which is a curriculum vitae. And let me tell you, when I was applying to a PhD program, I never knew what a CV was. I knew resume, but never knew CV. So looking at that, the statement of interest or statement of purpose, which is really, really important. And so I could host some of those writing sessions if you're interested in guiding you as to how to write those. But I do include a little bit here. We talk about standing out, and I know exactly, because I'm on acceptance committees, what we're looking for. And it keeps changing time and time again. But right now I can tell you sort of over the next couple of years what they're looking for. And then the whole idea of applications and letters of reference, which are really important. And then obviously some time for anybody to ask questions if they have that. So I'm just going to put you over here just so that I can see everything. So really the purpose of this session is to inform you about the PhD. First of all, seeing if it's something that you think that you might be interested in. What are your next steps as you continue through this process? Maybe you've graduated from Met, maybe you're in the midst of your journey, or this is something just in your mind. Really talking about what skills you need and to really harness and build those skills specifically as we continue through. Looking at what a strong application looks like, as well as what you need for that strong application, and then gaining that comprehensive understanding of the application specifically. So many people see it as this completely overwhelming, all-encompassing piece, but it doesn't need to be. And the reason why so many people see it as that is because they wait too long to start the process, but it's something that you could easily be starting now, bit by bit, little by little, if this is something that you're interested in, and I can guide you through that. Learning about the different blended and online programs, as well as in-person programs available in Canada. And then basically what I want you to walk away with today is ideas and strategies and that confidence to kind of move forward. Okay, so before we go into these required skills, I will share with you, and this is something that obviously I want to share with everybody, that I did my PhD with 2 young children. My daughter was 1 when I started, and my son had just turned 3. And I said to my partner at the time, "Are you ready to do this with me?" Because it's something that whether you have a partner, whether you have family, you need that support. Okay. It's something that your entire village will work with you through this. And I'm going to give you a very candid version of a PhD, because nobody ever gave that to me. And I went in with kind of blinders on, not understanding. And I thought, oh, PhD is going to be a piece of cake. It's really just a master's extended. It's not. I worked full time. I was teaching at the time. And I worked full time with 2 children. And so I was undergoing everything, all the things at that time, trying to still work full time, have 2 young children, do a PhD, and kind of keep my sanity during it all. And I did at a sacrifice at times. But I figured, of the best person to probably tell you about a PhD program, I've done it all. I've been through it all. So, and I'm here if anybody has any questions about any of the following things that I just mentioned, I'm more than happy. But I will tell you that there was a 4-month, and I don't recommend this, but there was a 4-month stint when I was healthy, thank goodness, nearing the end when I was doing my dissertation writing, that I was up till 4 o'clock every single morning, and I got up for work at 6 o'clock in the morning. So I had 2 hours of sleep for 4 months straight doing my PhD. I'm not saying that that's going to be you. I just want you to understand that it is a tough, tough go. But like one of my advisors said to me, they said, you are in the realms of Aristotle and Plato and these incredible minds who have done this doctorate work. If it was easy, everybody would do it. And so that kind of drove me. And I thought, many people have been here before, many people will be here after, but I can't tell you how many doors it opens for you. And you might have an idea of where it can take you, but the possibilities of having those credentials, it opens up an entire new world for you. And I'm really excited to share that with you. Okay. So as we go through things, I just want you to think about the following. You do need to be in high academic standing. Typically, programs are at the minimum a B+ average, and usually around that A- average is the recommendation. So you really want to make sure. At the same time, don't freak out if you don't have that, because right now schools are weighing 60% of the applications on your letter of interest or your statement of interest, your references, your CV, those things. They really want to see outside experiences besides the academic sometimes. At the same time, you need to have that academic rigor. Okay. Strong commitment. It does take it. And I promise you, if you are one of those people that just, I can give it, I know I can do it, this is why I'm here. This is for you, 100%. It is not easy. I'm not here to sugarcoat it at all, but it is 100% worth it. Okay. And I'm a walking testament to that. I love what I do. And this is why I'm here right now talking to you. So you do need to have enthusiasm. You do not want to be that person that complains about everything, because my goodness, this can suck you dry because there are so many things you can complain about. But if you see in every single possible situation the learning that can come out of that and how you can kind of grow through that and expand yourself and enhance yourself, you're going to be just fine. You want to be curious and open-minded, and this is what they're looking for too. As they go through your resume, your CV, your statement of interest, they want to see all of these within different types of examples, and we'll talk a lot about that. So you have to have a really good work ethic, integrity, good moral standards, that you're there, the grit, try hard. You want to have notions of being a good collaborator, because you will be collaborating with students, other PhD students within the program, as well as your academic advising committee. Perseverance, patience, a lot of patience. A quick question came in, where did I complete my PhD? I did one through York and one through the University of Toronto. So in clinical psychology and in education. Positive and growth mindset, maturity, and reliability. You have to be reliable. They basically want to see, by admitting you, that you are going to complete the program. And I will tell you that the averages were 40% of students did not complete their PhD. 40%. Which is an extremely high. So they are taking a chance on you. They are looking at you to be the futures of every single thing academic. And I see some really, really great questions coming in. I'm just going to hold on to those for a little bit. So keep asking those. Put the questions as you think of things, but I'm not going to keep stopping to answer them, because I promise you most of these questions will be delivered within that time. Okay. And then that soft skills is really, really important for this. So you need to have those critical thinking skills. Anytime that we're asking you in the Master of Educational Technology program to critically analyze, that is that you are giving your own ideas, your own ideologies, your own conceptualities, and you are supporting it with the academic work. And that's what they're looking for time and time again. So the ability to integrate data, information, multiple sources, be able to read a selection of articles and be able to pull out and tease out those main themes and ideas, those conflicting themes and ideas, and come up with your own original thought. That is a huge part of PhD work, okay? So if it's something that you struggle with, that's okay, because they have incredible support systems within a PhD, academic libraries, writing services, things like that can assist you. You have to demonstrate that you have excellent oral and writing communication skills. So absolutely, in your application, there can be no spelling mistakes, grammar mistakes, anything. You will want to get things looked at by 100 people if you can, just to be second and third eyes on things, because there can't be any mistakes. That writing is their way of seeing if you are a good writer, if you can write a dissertation, if you can publish articles, because this is basically where you're moving towards. The ability to coordinate and co-supervise. So they want to see that you are a leader, because if you are a leader, you understand the qualities of a good leader, so that you will be led properly by your advising committee. Okay, so those are really important. So many examples of leadership, how you've demonstrated leadership, both within your academic notion, within your groupings and things that you've done through the MET program, as well as beyond in your own professional realm. Okay, the ability to identify problems come up. These things are important, and looking at implementing those innovative solutions and ideas, but then also the ability to work independently as well as on teams. Okay, so as we move on to looking at how to prepare for a PhD, you're going to want to make sure that your grade point average is as high as it could possibly be. With that said, if you did not get a certain mark, you have to work for it. So often, people think, oh, I deserve this mark. But really, when you look at their work, they don't. So you have to put the time, the effort, the energy, use feedback, really kind of learn and grow that way. You have to look at the sustainability of a program. So in your program, they're typically, you have 6 years to complete a PhD, unless it's a flex PhD that I'm going to be speaking to, that in Ontario, they have an online and blended flex program, which is amazing. And you have 8 years to complete it. But typically, the average person, full-time student, will take about 4 years-ish, 4 or 5 years. A part-time student usually takes about 4, 5, 6 years, more on the 5 and 6. So it took me 5.5 years to get mine done, just to give you an idea. But I was also working full-time too and had other stuff going on. So you're going to want to be starting to now write down your soft skills that you think you demonstrate best and examples of those soft skills. Okay, because that will all come out in your statement of purpose and interest. So this is how you can start preparing. What are those soft skills? Things like critical thinking and problem solving, creativity and innovation, flexibility, adaptability, growth mindset, looking at your digital citizenship, especially if you're applying to a master or educational technology program or something similar to that. You want to show how you're demonstrating those skills. References and reference letters. I will tell you, I probably get about 120 requests a year. No word of a lie. And of those 20, keep in mind, I've also taught at 3 universities and have been coordinated with many others as well. But within those, I don't always take or offer my reference or my reference letter. You have to prove within the work that I've done with you that you have what it takes, because it's also my name on the line as well. And so I have to believe in you, and any student that I've ever taught probably knows I believe in them. And my interest is for them to do well and them to be successful. But in doing so, you want to give your person that you're thinking of being a reference for you plenty of time to prepare for this. Okay. When you are, and we'll go into this in a little bit more detail in the reference letter section, but when you are requesting a reference letter, you want to remind the person, not that you need to remind them who you are, they should know, especially if you're asking for a reference, but you will want to let them know about your skills. You'll want to share with them your CV, your curriculum vitae, which is an extended version of a resume. In another session, if you're interested in me helping people through parts of this, I can share with you my curriculum vitae. I can help guide you through the writing of a curriculum vitae. It is difficult. It's a lot, but it's just something that once you have it done, you just keep updating as you go. But that reference letter piece is really, really important. I'm in the midst of I just finished going through our new MET applications because I'm on the acceptance committee to those students that get into MET. And the reference letters, 9 times out of 10, are the make it or break it. Okay. Statement of interest and purpose is extremely important. Their grades, they obviously have to have the grades just to even be considered, but it is the reference. What are people saying about them? What are examples that are being given? Okay. So a lot of times what I might ask is I might ask my students to write the reference letter themselves and for me to go through it and pull and tease from those pieces because I want to know what they think of themselves and how they're trying to sell themselves. Okay. So I'll give you more tips on that in a minute. In some cases, you might have to do an admissions test. Typically, if you're looking for education, Ph.D. in education or in, I guess, educational technologies, you do not. But the big thing is you have to pay attention to deadlines. And I will tell you, I have the 3-week mark notice. You don't want to ever be handing your application in at the last minute. And when I say last minute, I mean the last week that it's due. You'll want to make sure that it's in at least, I always say, 3 weeks ahead of time, which means you have to work your way back because we see what times the applications come in at. And that also shows academic vigor. It also shows dependability, reliability. So those things that you don't think, I'm just getting it in. You don't think that it's seen, it demonstrates your work ethic, things like that, even, without even thinking of that. So typically for the following fall, so if we're accepting people in September of 2024, it would have opened in October, early October. And then applications are usually due around the 15th of January. Some extend it to mid-February, about 14th or 15th, but that's when the deadlines are. So in terms of this year, if you're looking to start a PhD next fall, you're still in good shape, but you'd want to kind of get things rolling pretty quickly. Sometimes, and it's funny that I put, make eye contact, but sometimes you will have interviews, acceptance interviews. I know I did for mine. And the number one thing that we look at is confidence. We look to see that somebody can make eye contact. It's such a little thing, but it makes a huge difference. Choosing an institution, this is really, really important for you. And you'll want to have a supervisor chosen before you go in. And I'll talk more about that in a minute. So this entire slide deck is meant as a resource. It's not necessarily meant for me to talk through everything. I want you to also have something that you can go through after, look back on. But basically, these are just some more of those specifics that we'll be getting into in a few minutes. Okay. So choosing a school, I've highlighted 5, I think 5, maybe 6, 5 here that are in Canada that for me would speak to the education and educational technologies. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you need to be a teacher, you need to be in the field of education. It just means that you could be a trainer or a leader in any capacity. Okay. So UBC's Okanagan School of Education, which is part of UBC, has it's fairly new. They have an online summer intensive PhD. So very much like the MET program is online, there are components that are summer intensives, like summer institutes. So it is practice-based dissertations, and that's amazing because you actually get to do the research in your own practice, in your own profession. You have a ton of opportunity here to specialize MET-inspired topics. So maybe something that caught your interest in MET, it was something that you wanted to do for a 580, or you extended, or you did in a practicum, and you thought this would be amazing to extend. Anybody in 531 who are doing digital learning resources for curriculum jamming, so many people go on to do more with those projects. This would be a way that you can do that. Okay. And they also are consistently, I had just somebody the other day send a message to me. Hey, Keri, do you know of any Met students who might be interested in applying for the PhD program here? So they are constantly trying to, we call it scooping our students as PhD applicants. So, and they are interested. We are allowed as Met instructors to also supervise, be on your supervisory committee. So for anybody who knows for a PhD, you have your main supervisor with a secondary supervisor. Those people, the main supervisor is directly aligned in your area. Secondary supervisor is one time removed, which just means that they are in your area or a focus. So an example, if you're doing literacy education and looking at children with special needs, then you would have one that is an expert in literacy education. You'd have the other one who's an expert in special needs pedagogies. Okay. And then you have a third reader, typically what we call a third reader. They're somebody who is outside of your program, but still has expertise in the area. And then your fourth supervisor, sometimes they have 5 depending on the university. They are outside of the university typically. Okay. The one that you want to have connected with by the time you apply for a PhD is your supervisor. So once you figure out what school you're interested in, what program you're interested in, you'll want to start really researching the professors, the faculty there, looking at their expertise, who do you align with, and that you will start reaching out. I'm interested in applying to the PhD program. I'm a PhD candidate in this area, a potential candidate. I'm interested in this, this, and this. These are my ideas. Would you be willing to meet? I would love to discuss the potential of you being a supervisor. And having a supervisor on your resume, like on your application, saying that they are willing to supervise me, we have 3 categories. It puts you to the top category for acceptance and review. Okay. So if you don't, you're kind of in the middle, depending on how your resume goes, but you really having that secure supervisor who's willing to take you on and extend your work with you, that's a good thing. Okay. We have the University of Calgary is another one. They have an online and face-to-face component, so it's blended. A lot of times they have intensives as well, where you could be there for a week, or sometimes you just do a weekend. But it would require, if you're not living in Calgary, for you to travel a little bit. And they have 2 information sessions coming up if you're interested. These are all hyperlinks so that you can go straight into these. So one of them is coming up next week, which I thought, oh my gosh, what is the timing? It's for the Ph.D., which is an education doctorate. And then they have a session on creating a strong application. Okay, you might be interested in. University of Manitoba also offers a blended delivery PhD program focused on educating professionals. So these are people who are already in the teaching profession specifically that are looking to do a part-time PhD. It includes coursework, candidacy exams. If you see that, that's a dissertation defense. So you have 2 times that you do a defense. One, when you're creating your proposal. So you're starting to think of the research that you're interested in. You know, AI is huge right now. VR and AR, virtual reality and augmented reality is huge. Anything with an EDIDA, so equity, diversity, inclusion, decolonization, anti-racism focus within the education or leadership world. All of these are really, really keen topics. So you decide how your research is going to extend the academic community and how it's going to contribute to greater learning enhancements, what have you. And so you have to first you write a proposal and you first defend that proposal with your committee, and they have to decide, is this worthy of the research and moving forward? And then once you've done that, you're going to continue through your coursework, and then you're going to write a dissertation, which is like a book pretty much, with your research, the analysis, your findings, your outcomes, so on and so forth. And then you have to defend that as well. And that you defend in front of your committee of 5. And they invite outside people. Anybody who wants to see your defense can come. And many people come. I think we had a hybrid. And within mine, it was probably close to 100 individuals who showed up. A little bit nerve-wracking, I would say. So in doing so, you want to just make sure that you're prepared for that. And that's why they want oral communication, because you're doing an oral defense. And then also that substantial research component. They have the University of Western Ontario. This is my proud undergrad school that I went to in Ontario. And they have a great, and I'm not just saying this because I went there, not for my PhD though. They do have a great PhD in education program. It is, again, in a blended format, combining online and some on-campus components. They have so many different doctorate offerings and PhD offerings. So doctorate of education degree in the field of education leadership, field of equity, diversity, social justice. They have PhD degrees and doctorates and PhDs are part and parcel to each other. Field of curriculum studies, linguistics, and then looking at critical policy, equity, and leadership. So it really depends what you're interested in pursuing and where you're interested in going. And then finally, the University of Toronto, it's called the Ontario Institute of Studies. I've done a lot of work. So the designer of 511, co-designer, because one of them was Dr. Jen Jensen, the other was Dr. Suzanne de Castel, as well as 544. Suzanne de Castel used to be the Dean of Education at the Ontario Institute for Studies in Education, okay? And it is a very educational technology university, but they have the flex time, one of the only schools that has the flex time doctorate. And that's where it's expecting for people to work full time. And you already have 8 years to finish it. So it gives you more time, it gives you more accessibility, it gives you just that extra piece, okay? And then Dr. Liam McFadgen, who is part of MET, she also had an entire Excel document of schools outside of Canada. I wanted to focus this on Canada for now, but there are not many that are online. And there's quite a few. If anybody's interested in going to PhD programs in person, which I did do, you're more than welcome to pursue that as well. But this was just focused because we're an online program with MET. I figured that you might be interested in that, either blended or online. But you can click on this and it has schools in Australia, schools in the US for you to peruse as well. And some of those are online as well. Okay, so right now we're going to get into a couple of the key components. The first being your academic transcript. These, everybody, take forever to get. Okay, so this will be one of the first things. Once you have exactly the school that you want to attend, you know exactly what program, you know that you're going through this, you are going to want to have the request, send the request to your institution, to UBC, and with all of the information, be ready to send it to request your academic transcripts. And they will want to see your undergraduate and your graduate transcripts. Okay, so if you took your undergraduate 20 years ago, it's going to take time. So just be aware that they need to have the whole application. And if you've done all of your stuff and you've handed it in and they don't have your transcripts, they will not accept it. Okay, so just make sure you start the process early. Same with letters of recommendation. I can't tell you the amount of times I've received, Dr. Ewart, do you mind writing a letter of recommendation for me? And they are fantastic people and students and everything. It's due tomorrow or it's due next week or things like that. Give your person, whoever you're asking, or people, you'll need 3 academic sometime. Okay. If you, for PhD, they do require 3 academic. So if you say, oh, well, one's professional, they need to be academic. Okay. Not everybody, sometimes they don't request a cover letter. Not everybody does do a cover letter. I am telling you, do a cover letter. Okay. Again, when I'm looking through applications, when I was looking at York through all the applications for PhD acceptances, the ones that didn't have a cover letter, you kind of push those to the side because you want to see within their cover letter, do they have what it takes? Are they here for the right reasons? It helps you stand out from everybody else. So always have a cover letter. Okay. It doesn't, if they don't request it, it doesn't need to be anything elaborate. It just needs to be your 1-minute pitch sale on who you are, what you can offer, and what qualities and skills you have that you're bringing to the table, because they want to see that you're going to extend the academic community within their program. So they don't want to see that you're like everybody else. They want to see how you stand out. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. Your statement of purpose is extremely important, one of the most important pieces of your application. Okay, and we're going to spend some time on that. Your curriculum vitae, it just goes through your history of academia, of work, of extracurricular activities, which are important, your volunteer work, and how you're applying your current academic standing. So your MET journey, how you're applying it to your practice right now, because they want to see that everything takes theory to practice. And then significance of research experience and potential research interests. So if you have not published anything, that's totally fine, not expected, but you also want to demonstrate how you've engaged in the research and the theory while you're in your master's degree. Okay, so very quickly for these pieces, you want to look at the coursework and requirements, what you need. So just be very well versed in everything that you're doing. Research expectations, what the dissertation process is. It's very similar among every university, but you want to make sure. The flexibility and opportunity you have to customize within the program. So if it's a program that's kind of narrowly organized where you don't have a lot of flex to do what you want to do, it might not be the right fit for you. I would find a program that allows you to do what you're interested in doing with your own research, okay? Because ultimately, the whole idea is you're going to be doing that for the rest of your life after you finish this. There are opportunities for academic and professional development and growth when you're in a PhD. You can be a teaching assistant, a research assistant. You'll have lots of opportunity to participate at conferences, opportunities for publication, a lot of times with the people that your academic advisory committee, and then a lot of contributions to successful academic careers. And the amazing thing is, if anybody knows, I'm sure I've told this a couple of times, you are looking for the connection that you have with your advisory committee. So Dr. Jen Jensen, who is at UBC, I did a master's degree with her over 20 years ago. She then came on to be my primary advisor of my PhD committee because I was looking at the use of technology in the classroom to promote literacy and numeracy skills. And now she had nothing to do with it. Well, she told me, Keri, UBC is a great school. You should apply here if they have any postings. But outside of that, we are now colleagues together after almost 25 years. And so you never know, the people who are your instructors, who are guiding you and everything, you will potentially work with them in some capacity. And it's pretty neat when you do so. So I just want you to always be thinking of networking, of really trying to meet people within this area. And this is the whole idea of collaborating and networking. There's so many benefits to that interdisciplinary, to network with scholars and gurus and things like that. And then there's lots of services available to support you. Okay. So what I've done, and we're not going to spend a lot of time on this because this will be what, if we do something, if you find it might be useful to you, that I can do a couple of writing sessions on these pieces. But this is crafting an effective statement of purpose or statement of interest. This is going to be a really, really important part of your application. So this whole idea is you're trying to state your interest and your intent in the program. So what I'm going to go through is talk about techniques for creating a great statement of intent, some must-haves, and tailoring your statement to fit the requirements. So just like if you're applying for a job, you're going to read through the entire university, what their mission is, what their statement is, what their goals and intentions, look at their strategic plans for the next couple of years, particularly in the department that you're interested in. You are going to tease out the most pertinent key points, buzzwords, things like that, and that will then be transitioned into your statement of purpose through your examples and your ideas of how to do this. But they want to hear their philosophies in your experiences, or vice versa. Okay, it's only, you know how much you love doing that little word capacity for all of us at MET. This is preparing you to be clear and concise and coherent in your work. So 500 to 750 words max. That is it. That's what you have to state your purpose. And within those 500 to 750 words, you'll want to talk about 4 areas. The first is your academic and professional preparation for a career moving forward with this area of interest. The second is your interest in the program. Why are you interested in their program particularly? Why do you want to be a candidate there? Okay. What your future plans are for a career based on what you do with this program, and then your own strengths. And I talk about weaknesses. I'll talk about that in a minute, or your ability for you to carry out the professional responsibilities. Okay. So as we move through here, looking at, again, crafting, these are the questions I want you to, even now, even if you're thinking a couple of years from now, or I'm not quite sure, I want you to start answering these questions. What would you like to study in graduate school? Think about that. That's really important. You have to have that plan going in. What motivated you to choose this field and this career and this program? We are really lucky. I feel like of all fields and departments, we have the easiest, not easiest, but the most exciting, because this world is changing at an exponential rate, and it is a digital world and digital society. So this work that we're doing is ever changing. It's constantly moving. It's evolving. So the skills that you're bringing into it, you're going to keep proliferating throughout all these times. And so that's exciting. It's not stagnant. It's continuously flowing. So how are your past studies and experiences relevant to your program of choice and demonstrate your skill? That's where examples come in handy. What do you plan to achieve with your graduate degree? And what makes you unique? These 5 questions will frame your entire statement of interest. And I want you to start thinking about them. Start jotting down. You could be driving in the country and yes, that's it. So keep a pad of paper or a notebook or your notes on your phone or wherever you keep things, and start writing things down. Okay. So again, this section is just meant for you to start thinking about things. I'm not going to go into a ton of detail. I'm actually going to skip through. It's meant for you to use as a resource, but these are some things that you'll want to mention: your academic and professional preparation, a CV for graduate school, again, a curriculum vitae. It has your experience, it has your work, it has your, just like a resume, but it extends so much further. It gives specific conferences that you've spoken at, any publications that you've done. And if you haven't, don't worry, but this is some stuff that you might want to start thinking about. For instance, there's a tech expo. That would be a fantastic conference. A lot of it's student-led for you to participate in so that you can start getting that experience in conferencing. Research opportunities, faculty experience. These are some things that I really want you to start thinking about. Focused area in your field. Again, I just created these slides for you for a resource. I've given an example of one that was actually done so that you have an exemplar to go through. Talking about your strengths or weaknesses. This was somebody that had done a placement at York University. So we looked at a strong statement of purpose of a strength. If you're talking about an area or a weakness, you turn it into a strength. You can say, this is something through my journey that I recognized in myself needed attention, needed constant, focus. And through my work that I did with my colleagues, with my peers, with this, I turned this into a strength, which is one of my greatest strengths now. By saying something like that and demonstrating how it shows your growth mindset, it shows your perseverance, it shows your chance and ability to improve and learn. Those are really things that stand out. Okay, good endings to a statement. I've given some examples. And then we talk about standing out, and this will be sort of our last little section. And then I have a couple of little pieces from there, and then we'll open it up to questions. So really, you want to make sure that you have a strong academic profile, strategies for maintaining. So you might say, I was able to maintain a high GPA within the MET program because of A, B, and C. Although I worked full time, I consistently reviewed my notes. I did this, because they want to see that you're going to do the same thing in your PhD. You develop relationships with potential supervisors. So I maintained really great relationships with my current professors. and I was in touch. I reached out, I did this, I had constant communication, and then that will help you go back and get those letters of recommendation. You want to definitely showcase your leadership experience and extracurricular activities relevant to your field. If you have not done that yet, start. That's really, really important. Start thinking about what field you want to get into and what you're going to do to demonstrate that. And then also your familiarity with current trends. And so I put this together for you. Right now, if you were going to apply for a PhD in educational technology, education, things like that, these are the pieces that you're going to want to include, okay? As well as experiences within these areas. So ed tech, blended learning, personalizing inclusive learning, online learning analytics, EDIDA, e-learning, instructional design, digital literacies. All of these are things that you'll want to include, okay? Within your statement of purpose or even showcasing in your CV. And then I've also included some other things as well. I wish somebody told me this stuff when I was going through it, because we got nothing. So they don't give you the tips like, hey, this is how you get in. But there's a lot of funding. PhDs are expensive. They're about, to do a PhD now is anywhere from about 60 to 75,000, maybe even a little bit more. So you want to prepare for that. Okay, if you're an international student, it's definitely more. But these are all the PhD funding. I had none of these. I had to pay everything off my own, merit. If you are a full-time PhD student, then you can they will pay your tuition for you, and you can do teaching apprenticeships, research apprenticeships to get more money, but you cannot be working at the same time. If you apply to the University of Toronto, the Ontario Technology PhD, that Flex one, the Flex requires you to demonstrate that you're working full-time. So that's the whole thing. It's for working professionals, okay? But on top of that, these are all of the bursaries and scholarships that they offer to part-time students. I did not know that. So I was thinking the whole time, oh my gosh, I have to work my little butt off this whole time to be able to get all this money so that I can pay for myself, when all along, there were all these scholarships that were available. Okay, so look into them. They're amazing. There's ones in British Columbia. There's ones all over Canada. And I focused on Canada for this one. If we're interested in international, I'm more than happy to look into that for you. Reference letter considerations. This is really, really important, only because I write so many reference letters. I can tell you from major experience, build the relationship with the person. Somebody can say, oh my gosh, do you remember me from your class? I remember your name and marking your work and giving you feedback maybe, but I'm looking to see that you've built relationships with your peers, that you've built a relationship with me, and choose wisely. If you are applying for it like a PhD in a certain area, think about the professors that have taught you in that area, that you've demonstrated really great academic rigor, great success, and ask them. I said, be the early bird. I can guarantee applications are due in January. I'm going to have a huge hit in December of people reaching out to me. Luckily, I've already had a couple people start reaching out to me. So now is the time that you want to, if you're applying for the fall, now is the time that you want to start thinking about it and reaching out to people. Okay, come prepared. Give them ideas, as I told you. Give them ideas of your skills, your competencies. Share your CV and resume with them. Share your application, your statement of purpose with them. This is really helpful when we're writing. Share the link to the application website, because I will go on and look at all of my students. I'll see what they're applying for. What are the necessary requirements? What are needed? What are their timelines? Things like that. I look into that. Have a sample reference letter handy. Sometimes, and I told you, I'm doing way too much right now in my in this term. Thank goodness my winter slows down, but I might say, send me a sample reference letter and I will tweak it and go through and rewrite it, of course, but with that as a template is extremely helpful. You need academic references. All of them have to be, and follow up with an email. I can't tell you how many times people sent a request into me and that was it. Follow up. send your request, send a, I'm so appreciative, because be appreciative, believe me, it takes me probably a good 2-3 hours to write a good academic reference letter for somebody. And then when they deliver it, follow up with the thank you. And then when you get in, follow up with the I got in. Okay, because we always want to know that you get in. These are some things that you can start getting involved in right now. International graduate studies, or there's a graduate studies association. You can start linking in with people. You can start connecting with people. You can start looking into those. I say avoid negativity on social media. You will be Googled. Okay, people look at these pieces. So I just want you to make sure that you are really positive about these aspects. Look at the acceptance committees, learn about them, learn about the institution. Okay, think about how you can promote your program and those pieces. So you have everything that you need, that you're equipped in, and all of the skills that you need. This is just intended to be an information session to do it. As I said, it is tough, it is hard, but it is so worth it. And it opens up so many doors of opportunities for you. Okay. So hopefully this little piece was helpful. And just even thinking of, you know what, I know that you have what it takes now for those next steps. Again, if it's something that enough people are interested, then we can host additional sessions for writing, for looking at curriculum vitae, statement of interest and purpose, and even some, just if you can, Google those institutions that you're interested in going to and sit in on their information sessions. You'll get a lot of information, particularly about their institutions. Okay. Do we have any questions? This is the question and answer time.
I have a question. Cassie Weber.
Yes. Hi, Cassie Weber.
Fantastic overview.
Thank you.
Now, I have a question. I suspect it will be quite unique. I graduated from Met in 2020.
Congratulations. During COVID, my gosh.
I know, it was just crazy. The professor who I had identified a statement of work with, and we were, fairly down the road regarding a PhD, he died very unexpectedly.
Oh, no.
This was Dr. Marker.
Yes.
Marker. Yeah, it was just such a shock. And then, I just kind of, okay, well, that's done. And then, COVID and whatever else, my kids, so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. But I'm wondering, where do you pick up? Because it's been like 3-4 years now. And I mean, I've kept in touch with Leah and David Watt. Mm-hmm. But Michael Marker was really the person who, we were at that stage. So I just kind of shelved it. Where do you pick up?
That's a really good question. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because we're not always in touch with the people, especially if you've graduated a while ago and you're thinking of doing this. So, and some people move on too. Some people aren't at the institutions that they used to be at and everything. If you go back through your Met journey specifically and think of some particular individuals, I would explain the situation. Leah is fantastic. And she is a wealth of knowledge, and for her to reach out to her and just say, these were the other individuals, because Leah's been around Met so long. She has really kind of been at the heart of Met for a very long time. I would look to see if you could reach out to her and ask her what she would say about the people that were teaching at the time. The other person I have on here is Dr. Teresa Dobson. She is the Associate Dean right now, but she is also an individual who has taught with Met, continues to be involved in Met, was the interim director last year. If you explain the situation to her, she might also be a reference to you considering. But I would come in it extremely prepared with all of the information, a sample letter ready to go, your involvement with specific examples, and just say, here's my predicament. I already have 2. This was going to be my 3rd. Would you be willing to, considering all of this information, would you be willing to as the associate dean, to be that recommendation, or make a recommendation of who might be interested? Okay. Because sometimes if they have not, they can speak as an associate dean. She can speak to several of the instructors that have taught you in the past. And she can also gauge information and speak on behalf of the supervisory panel of that particular program.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
You can also, if there are any specific questions too, you can email me if they are something like that. And then what I can do is make further recommendations and people to connect with. So if I knew, for instance, who, if you remember, who your instructors were and everything, we can see who is still very active, who's involved, who you might be best to seek that assistance from and everything like that. Okay. The good news is there's a solution to this issue.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Hopefully that was helpful.
That was, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Helena, for including Leah's email. All right. Any other questions? I know it was a lot of information in a short amount of time, but this, I'm going to share it one more time for those that came in a little bit afterwards. Here is the link to this slide deck. There's my email right here. Anybody who's ever had me as a student, they know very well that I am always here to help. I see Kim's hand up.
Hi, I do have dogs and everybody's in the living room with me, so I don't have my headphones on.
No problem.
Okay, so I graduated from MET like 2012, so it's been a while. Yep. But I did an additional master's degree from University of Manitoba. Okay. And so, looking at the, like the possibility of coming back to UBC and doing some continuing graduate work, should I, I do think that there are still some people who remember me, which has been a while, but my advisors at UNBAM, because I did a thesis with them, I guess the idea is like they've moved on to different universities, but just to reach out to them at their university that they're currently at.
100%. Yes.
Okay. That's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I still have students that I taught at Brock that are reaching out to me consistently now. Yeah. And I still write reference letters for them all the time. All right. Anybody else?
There is a question in the chat with listing conferences and publications in the CV. How are practitioner / industry examples rated versus academic?
So the good news is they are right up there with academic. Unfortunately, not everybody. So I started as a teacher. That's not an unfortunate thing. I'm very happy that I did. And they are able to see, academic acceptance committees are able to see that you are bringing very high quality work from the industry with you into their program. And that is a really good thing. It's very prestigious. It's seen as, how are you able to give back on the experiences? They're looking to see, how are you going to be an asset to your peers? What are you able to contribute? So in terms of that, you have good kind of pros and cons with both. If you are fully academic and everything, you've been consistently doing the research, you have that upper hand in that respect. But if you're in industry and an industry lead, then you have a wealth of experience and expertise that you are now drawing on theories and putting them into practice. And so you're able to really highlight your ability to transfer all of those ideologies, all of those theories into an actual practical sense. So again, pros and cons, but it's not a drawback by any means. You're not rated any less or higher in both stances. Does that answer the question?
I think so. There are a handful of other questions in the chat that I think we can take away, because I know you do have to jet, Keri.
Those little kids that I was doing my PhD are now big kids, and they are high school kids, but still, I don't know how. I still drive them everywhere. Good news is my son gets his full license next month. So we're in good shape because that can happen. But how about what I will do is I will take all of these questions back with me. I will put together a little response video and then I can share that with Helena. And Helena, maybe if there's a place that we can post this with any responses to those questions.
Yeah, I'll have the recording up on the Met Community webpage with all of the resources as well posted on our webpage. So you can go back to the webpage, which I will share through email with everyone.
Okay. And if we were to offer a session for help with writing and just kind of guidance through the CV approach, guidance through the statement of purpose and those pieces, would that be something that people are interested in?
I think so.
I see some head nods. I see some thumbs up. Okay. I see some yeses. Okay. So maybe what we'll do is look at schedules. I say that with a laugh just because I have no time, but we'll look at schedules and I'll try to fit in. Maybe we'll start with the CV because that is the timely piece. And then what we'll do is we can move from there and go into the statement of purpose and interest. Maybe I know Met closes at most classes are done December 5th. So maybe give everybody a little bit of a couple-day breather and then we can come at it fresh when courses are done. But still, if anybody's interested in meeting that time of the January timeline, it still gives you time. So you can bring either a prepared CV and statement of purpose for review, or you can start from scratch and use that as a writing session. Okay.
Awesome.
It was lovely to see everybody today. Thank you so much for being part of this.
Thank you so much, Keri, for presenting and putting this together.
It was my pleasure. And it was nice to see you.
Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful evening.
Thanks, Helena.
Thanks, Tamika. I'll see you later.
Oh my gosh, all these people. How are you?
By any chance, was it recorded, the meeting? I missed the whole thing. I got stuck at work.
Don't worry, it's going to be recorded. It's recorded and going to be shared. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay.
Not to worry.
Oh, I see. Hey, Jen. Nice to see you too. Look at all these people who are in this session. This is awesome.
We had a good turnout. We had like 40 participants come and go.
Good.
Which is I think it's pretty good for like a PhD, a very niche workshop for sure. So I think we had good.
Yeah, and it was just an information session about those pieces and having that resource for them to kind of move back to. Obviously, I'm not going to go through all of it, but at least it gave that a little bit of guidance through too. So, we can put a poll out to see if people are interested in that writing piece, if we want to do that. At this point, I didn't even have capacity for this, but it's important. So maybe we can do, when the Met courses are done and I'm done all my marking and all of my grant writings and stuff, we can look to that next step.
Yeah, sure. Some of those deadlines are a little bit sooner though. One of mine is December 1st, which is a little brutal, to be honest, but most of them are definitely January. Anyways, this was awesome. Good, concise, up to the point and efficient. Hey, Janet, thank you. So I'll share everything and have everything posted tomorrow.
Thank you. That's perfect. And I saw some